have it installed. So you can get it from apt-get, different Git, install Git, just to be confusing. Okay, I already have it installed, but that's how you would install it. There are a number of kind of GUIs that you can use with Git, but I'm just going to show you how to do it on the command line today. So let's go into the app that I just created. Well, I guess I'm already there. So I'm in the CCAN app source directory. And you can see I've got all my source code here. So to create a new Git repository, I just run the command git init. Okay, and it says it initialized an empty repository there. Let's look at git status. It looks like it's picking up a number of files as untracked files. Pretty much everything in here is untracked right now. So we want them to be tracked, so let's go ahead and add them all. So we do git add, and then dot to add them all. Okay, now we can do our git status again. And they're all green. You can see all the files that it's tracking now. So the way that Git works is you've got kind of a local repository. It's actually a directory that's hidden. If we do an ls-al, you can see now we have this hidden directory Git. We can list the contents of that. And there's a whole bunch of stuff in here. So it's actually going to track changes down to the line level on your files. So in order to save those changes, though, we need to commit it to our repository. Okay, so I'm going to do git commit, and with every commit you have to give it a message. So the -m, my first commit. Okay, it's complaining because Git doesn't know who I am yet, but it tells me how to remedy that. So I'll just run those two commands it's suggesting. Git config global, needs my email. It basically needs to know how to contact you, because every time you commit, you could have multiple users on a Git repository. And if someone commits something that breaks your code, you want to be able to track them down. So that's why it's asking for an email. And then config user.name. I'm going to give my GitHub username for that. Okay, now let's try our commit again. Okay, said it added all of these or created them in the Git repository. So now we can do git status. You can see we don't have that long list of files anymore because everything has been tracked to this point. Notice it says we're on the master branch. When you create a new Git repository, the master branch is the default branch. And we'll talk about branches momentarily. But first, what I want to do is I want to publish this on GitHub, what's called a remote repository, so that I can work with other developers on the same code. So let me go into my browser and go into GitHub. And there are a number of other ones. There's another one that's popular called Bitbucket, but GitHub is probably by far the most popular repository. So I'll sign in. Okay. And you can see I've already got a lot of stuff in here. But what I want to do is create a new repository. Okay, and I'm going to actually name it the same as my CCAN source code. Not required, but it's kind of useful. This is my repo for CCAN app. Okay, and we'll create that. Okay, there's no code in here. GitHub is nice. They tell you exactly how to get the code there. We've already done git init, We didn't add a README, but we did do our first commit. Now what we need to do is copy this line, okay, and we need to add basically our code to this repository. Okay, so we're going to add a remote. We'll call it origin. This will be the URL of it. If you look, that's the URL here, minus the .git. So we'll go do that. I should mention, in order to work with a certain Git repository, you have to be sitting inside of the Git repository, meaning you have to change into that directory. Okay, so I'm inside the source directory right now. So I ran that. So that added the remote. The next thing we need to do is what's called push. Okay, so pushing is pushing any committed changes that you've made up to a remote repository like GitHub, whereas committing is committing it to the local repository on your computer. So there's a difference between commit and push. It's asking for my GitHub information. Okay. So you can see it said that it successfully pushed it, and that it pushed a new branch called master because it wasn't up there. Now we can go into GitHub and refresh the page, and you can see our code is here. And we can look at it. Okay. Let's play with this just a little more. So let's go ahead and create a new branch. Now the reason you'd want to create a new branch like this is, say you have your source code in master stable, but you want to add a new feature, and you want to be able to commit and push to kind of say track your changes as you go. You probably don't want to do that on the master branch because you're going to introduce bugs as you're coding, and you want people to be able to rely on your code, not get frustrated with it. So what you can do is create a new branch, and it will basically take the starting point of, in this case, I was on the master branch, and copy it into a new location. And now I can make changes to it, and later on I can merge those changes back to the master branch. Okay, so it creates kind of a safe place for us to add new code when you're already kind of operating in a production environment. It's also, if you're working with multiple people on a project, it's useful if they want to try something out new, they can branch to a new branch and not mess up anything that you're working on. So there's a lot of applications of branches. So I created it. I can say git branch. I forget what the options are here. Okay. So if I just call git branch by itself, it lists the branches. You can see I'm on master right now. So let's check out the new branch so we can work on that one. Okay. Oops. Git branches. Oops. Branch. Okay, so now I'm on the new branch. Let's do something interesting. Let's see, git status will also tell us what branch we're on. Let's go into our code. So ccan app. Let's modify this setup script. Okay, and what I'll do is I'll just advance the version number. Save changes there. Now let's look at our git status. Okay, you can see a couple of things. One, this file has been modified, setup.py, it's tracking that. And also it picked up this temporary file as untracked. I'm not really interested in tracking the temporary file, so I'm not going to add it. So what I'm going to do, in order for me to commit this change, I need to first add the file. Git add setup.py. Okay. So Now we can do git status. Okay, now it's green. And now I will commit it. Again with a message. Advanced version number. And setup.py. It's usually very helpful if you provide descriptive messages. So if you introduce bugs, it's a little easier to figure out where that happened. Okay, so it says there was one insertion, one deletion. I'll show you what that means in a bit. Let's go ahead and push this. So I'll go back to the git push command, but instead of master, I'm going to push this new branch. Prompting me for my GitHub credentials again. Okay, new branch was pushed and was successful. So let's go to GitHub. And you can see it actually has got a little pop-up that says, less than a minute ago, you pushed this new branch. Let's look at it. So now, from this select, you can select which branch you're looking at. So I'm looking at new branch. And I can see there's this compare link. And I can compare this one with master in this case. So I've got master here, I'm comparing it with new. And you can see it shows the setup.py file is different. This is the deletion. I deleted the old line, which had 0.0 on it, and added this new line. So remember, the granularity of Git is on a line basis. I actually only changed this character, but it doesn't keep track of character basis. So it just tracks that as this line was deleted and this one was added. Okay, so we can actually, if there were more files that were different in here, it would show a whole list of them here. I can actually expand this and see the whole file if I wanted to. Okay, so now let's say I'm done developing in my new branch. Now I want to merge that branch back to the master branch so that everyone can get those updates. So what I need to do is I need to switch back to master. That's the branch I want to merge into. So I check out that branch with git checkout master. Okay. And then I just call git merge and the branch I want to merge into it. Okay, and you can see it kind of summarizes those changes that it merged. And let's go ahead and push now. Since this branch has already been pushed, I can just do git push. And it will push it, again, prompting for my credentials. Looks like there's something I need to do. It's prompting me something about my Git. Okay, and now we can refresh this. And we can see it's comparing master and new branch. There's nothing different. They're identical now because we just merged them. So that is the very quick introduction to Git. We use Git, since I'm on here. Oh, that's my profile. How do I get to kind of my home page? I don't know how to get to my home page. So I actually belong to an organization called CI Water on GitHub. And this organization houses all of our different repositories. Okay, the main Tethys one is here. So you can actually have repositories not just owned by individual users, but you can kind of create an organization that can own them as well. So the way that we use Git, in addition to kind of developing Tethys and other things, is we put our apps on GitHub. And what that does is it makes it really easy to get the code onto another computer. In this case, these are web apps, so we need to install them on many different servers. So we use Git as a means of pulling the code onto the servers. And since I'm saying that, maybe I should show you how to do a clone. Let's go, maybe this observed data app. So down here on GitHub, there's this link that I can use to clone the repository. I'll just copy that. Okay. And I don't want to do it inside of my CCAN source, so I'll go back one directory to where all my apps are. And I can do git clone and then that URL. Okay, and what it will do is it will pull down that repository, an exact copy of it, hence the clone. Now I've got that observed data in there, and I can start working on it. Now on GitHub, you can manage permissions, so if you didn't belong to the CI Water organization, you didn't have permissions to commit to this repository, all you would be able to do is just clone it. You wouldn't be able to push any changes back without those permissions. So there's another concept called fork, which is similar, but what it does is it basically creates a new remote repository in GitHub, and then you can clone that repository onto your computer and you can submit changes. Basically, it will give you a copy of it on GitHub that you can edit. And then if you say you want to contribute back to that open source project, you fork it, make the changes, and then you submit what's called a pull request. And what a pull request is you're requesting that the owner of the main repository take a look at your fork and pull the changes that you've made to add the functionality to their site. So that's kind of a way that anonymous contributors can contribute to an open source project without necessarily having permissions. They kind of make a copy of it, make the changes, and then say, hey, take a look at this. I think you'd be interested. So, and then it's up to the owner of that repository to decide whether they pull it into their code or not. So, very cool. I wonder if GitHub has their code on GitHub. Couldn't find it. Any questions on Git? All right. All right, and if you Google on the internet, you can find a lot more resources that talk about GitHub, the various GUIs. I mean, GitHub has their own. GitHub for Mac, GitHub for Windows. That's a nice kind of user interface for Git. There's not a lot of really nice ones for Linux. There's a few that are okay. But these ones are, so you don't always have to work on the command line. All right, guys, I think we'll call that a day.